Hi everybody, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Power of Knowing Forums. Join the CSU Talks LinkedIn Live episode 222 today. We are celebrating women's leadership today, and in this month whole we are celebrating women's leadership in the month of March, where we speak about her voice, her power, her story, and her journey, and her impact. Today we are having a discussion on a topic called the compassion edge, how flourishing workspaces win in the future. To have this topic discussed, we have Dr. Sujay Banerjee, CEO of Capstone People Consulting, a spotlight company, uh, a cultural change expert. Without further ado, let's welcome our podcast speaker to the event. Hi, Dr. Sujaya, how are you?
Hi, Prem Kumar. It's great to be here. And thank you for the invitation. And also, thank you for celebrating the Women's History Month. I think it's very powerful to have women who are in leadership positions. And I saw some of the other speakers. I haven't had a chance to hear them, but they're all very young and sprightly. And it's great that they are coming in to talk about women or leadership, or at least, sort of show how women leadership is manifesting
Yeah.
across the industry. Very, very proud of all of them.
Thank you. Thank you. It's leaders like you who are coming in and helping us to bring up these sessions live, Dr. Sujaya. It's been an honor that we have you for the second time in the session here on our podcast. And without this one, we'll jump into the topic where we talk about how do you define compassionate leadership? Is there a way that resonates with both employees and executives?
So, I'm going to start by telling you why chose this subject
Okay.
when we said what theme should we talk on, we're meeting a second time.
Hmm.
And it's coming from a space of despair,
Okay.
which is, if you look at what are the most popular themes on, the internet, particularly on social media.
Hmm.
You typically get a lot of momentum if you talk about toxic workplace, so toxic work environment, or if you talk about toxic boss.
Okay.
I think it attracts a lot of eyeballs. It resonates with a lot of people. You'll get a lot of reposts and resharing if you're talking about not having had a positive experience at work, which just goes to show that there's just so many people who resonate with not enjoying the experience of work, not enjoying coming to the workplace, not experiencing inspiration in the workplace. And I think that it's extremely disturbing to see this. And it's a growing trend. So obviously, I mean, the idea is to go back to the drawing board to be able to figure how did we come to a place where people don't experience a skip in their step to get to work. And I think the general belief is that the previous generations were so thrilled to just have a job that they
Mm.
clung on to their job with for dear life, and almost that they offered themselves for exploitation and pain, which is not true at all. I mean, having started my career so many years ago at a time where there weren't a lot of women in the workplace, I want to talk about how jobs that converted into careers and places of passion. There were very significant men who were responsible for converting that for you. So if you came in, and of course you were raised in a protected sort of manner, we weren't used to traveling on our own. This was very astounding for our parents. For me, my parents had three other daughters other than me, so it's one thing to say go have a career, and one thing to go get an MBA, and the another thing to actually pursue what it takes to do a job like a man. You know what I mean? Like the rest of the men. And I'm saying that it's very significant men who've converted our potential, given us life skills, inspired us to do what it is that we were doing, and made such outstanding professionals out of us. I mean, so my experience of work right from day one has been a place where you're excited to wake up in the morning and come to. It's because you're going to find very significant, corporate parents or teachers or guides who are going to actually help you to be able to succeed. And it's not like it was an easy journey. I mean, it's not like we didn't get wrapped on the knuckles or be told off if we didn't get something right. I mean, these were tough bosses to have, and they were not ready to mollycoddle anyone because you'd come in a space of business and you were expected to deliver work. So I think I'm responding to the experience of lack of compassion in the workplace that has grown over a period of time, and I think it is in very disturbing levels as we speak. And it's gotten added by the disruptions we experience in the environment, particularly over the last over a decade. And then we've had the disruption of all disruptions in the form of the pandemic. I mean, the whole world experienced a health crisis for the first time, where you didn't know whether you were going to make it to the other side. And I think at a young age, to be able to have those kind of experiences, and then being torn, first of all, for a lot of people through their education process itself, which has broken down, through the pandemic and the recovery post pandemic. I think the fact, particularly for people who study business or eventually want to come in and make a career in the business environment, what you study and what it is that you actually experience in a workplace. It's like having a map in your hand. And then when you're using the map, the terrain has changed very dramatically. So the map and the terrain are not speaking
Not
to each other anymore. And so when the map and the terrain don't match, you got to walk the terrain. The
yeah,
terrain is the truth. The terrain is the real place. And the map ceases to exist. And so that has been the experience of a lot of young professionals, where the map and the terrain don't talk to each other. They don't speak to each other. And it can be very disconcerting to come in an environment where you don't just not have. I think the academia not preparing people for the workplace has been an accusation for a very long period of time, which is you have a disconnected curriculum which is not really preparing people. And there is some ceremonial stuff like, oh, let's call some guest lecturers from the industry, you know what I mean, call some industry professionals who speak for an hour about things that they have done. And that
mm,
doesn't mean people have understood what the work environment is. There are internships and all of that, which is to be able to get attuned to what a workplace might require in terms of, I would call them life skills for a workplace. You know what I mean? Survival skills for a workplace. You kind of learn some of those when you come into an internship, but they're too short to really kind of make any firm connections. And you're living in times where no two workplaces are the same, even if
mm,
they're from the same industry. So you again are going to be in a situation where the terrain and the map don't match and they don't talk to each other. So I think these are overall very difficult times. And I think the fact that most people are still going through the process of adapting to this change, and some people not adapting to it very greatly, is creating this disconnect between what people expect to experience at work and what they're actually experiencing, which is they could well find many people who are out of depth in terms of being able to provide the guidance, provide the support, provide the clarity, provide the inspiration that people are actually looking for during these times. So, toxic work environment, toxic bosses. I mean, I want to tell people that a lot of us, not just me, many of us went to work and continue coming to work with a skip in our step. For the last 8 years, I run Capstone People Consulting. I'm self employed in the sense that I run a consulting firm that employs other people. And I have to say that, there isn't a single day that I'm not excited about coming to work. And not just because I created this work environment. For many years, for almost 3 decades, I've worked for somebody else, and I've still been so excited to come to work. Found some of the best people in my life and some of the best guides, teachers, mentors. So bosses were the people who you cry for when they pass. You know what I mean? At the stage at which we are, a lot of our bosses have are either at in their sunset years, or have passed. And I'm saying that these are very significant losses for us personally, because we have created such deep personal connections with these people. So, coming back to the topic on hand, which is creating cultures of flourish, I think we are all collectively sitting on a huge opportunity to revolutionize the workplace. Bring back the love to work, bring back the love for the workplace, bring back the excitement about actualizing in a workplace, to end these petty debates around whether are you working at home, are you working in the workplace, what is basically work and what is basically workplace. I think instead of getting into that, we should be interested in the experience of work and what are the experiences of work that we're actually creating for people. I do believe with a lot of work that we do around multi generations at work, that's what young people are actually seeking, which is how am I spending my 8 hours, 10 hours in a workplace? Am I really growing? Am I really learning? Are there people who are inspiring me? Do I feel connected? Do I feel heard? Does someone care about what's going on with me? Am I just a faceless sort of nameless person, or am I somebody who, people want to come in and connect with, which people want to come in and talk to? Is there any care or attention to my career? Are they interested in what it is that I'm learning? And is there interest in whether I find myself feeling not included, or I don't yet feel a sense of belongingness, or that I'm struggling with not being able to still make the connections which other people seem to be making. So what I'm calling out loud for are workplaces of compassion.
Mm.
Calling out loud for workplaces which are allowing us to basically
Disconnected.
we allow workplaces that are allowing us to sort of uphold the human side of enterprise, not just talk about it on our websites, which is people are our most important assets or resources, that we're human centric, that we value people. And that's not the experience a lot of people are having at work, obviously, because they are so aligned with the idea, or they resonate so much with the idea of having an unhappy workplace. So I think my calling out loud in the context of using compassion as the theme for our conversation today is to be able to talk about, first of all, what compassion really means.
Yeah.
And you asked, what is compassionate leadership? And I'm saying that most people think compassion is empathy.
Hmm.
And I'm here to say that compassion is about doing right unto others, which just simply means that, and it's not just the leadership that needs to be compassionate in a compassionate workplace. It basically means everyone brings compassion at work, and of course the leaders lead that behavior, we role model that behavior, so that there are more people who can emulate that. Somewhere we've created a paradigm where we believe there's a disconnect between the world of business and compassion. I mean, empathy, compassion, human centricity, for many are weak words, but they're words to be used in a town hall, or they're words to be used to describe something which actually doesn't exist.
Hmm.
And I'm here to say that they're not weak words, they're actually very strong words. It's like the soft part of the organization that is actually hard to manifest. And but if you do manifest it, you can have sustainable success in the organization. So do they belong to the workplace? They most certainly belong to the workplace. Do we talk more about it than actually work towards manifesting it? I think most of us haven't quite understood what that really means.
What that really means.
Yeah,
Yes.
but what we're really bearing every day, what we're coping with every day, is the outcome of not having understood what is compassion. So
Hmm.
organization after organization is struggling with collaboration. There is no organization that is not struggling with silo working.
Yeah.
Now, if you just take that, yeah, and I'm saying I could take you to different paths and different challenges that organizations have, but this is a very common one. Now, what does that really mean? What does it mean when people work in silos, right? It really what that means is that you've basically not understood the value of the value chain, or you don't want to uphold the fact that everything is integrated in terms of being able to generate value. So there can't be any isolated department that can work on their own, right?
True.
Everyone has an input, throughput, output in the context of the other functions that exist inside the organization. So they can't be people you just meet in a business review meeting, or they just can't be people who you say hi to in the corridor. Yeah, they're
Hmm.
people who matter in the context of what it is that you're trying to produce every day. And so it's not a matter of choice. It's the lay of the land to be able to actually deliver what it is that you're coming in, walking in through the doors to deliver every day.
Yeah.
So it's something everyone owes to the organization, and yet there is no accountability for collaboration, especially in the current times. If you want to, everyone's talking about speed and agility and being agile, and you can't be any of this if you don't collaborate, right? So that means you're talking about concepts, or sharing, expectations, without having the authenticity to be able to understand them or even practice them yourself. Also, silo working reeks of insecurities in a workplace, of how you would rather just be inside a place with your own people. You don't want people to come in, you don't want information to be able to move out. You want to remain in your fiefdom or your space, remaining disconnected to what others are doing, or perhaps disconnected with the information that other people have, which is all very crucial information for you to be able to take informed decisions or solve problems effectively or in a speedy manner. So I think that we erode, value creation very significantly by working in silos, but it reeks of insecurity, it reeks of fear, it reeks of not trusting others when you want to work in a silo. And these are obvious challenges that organizations are experiencing. And so the minute you see silo working, you know this is a discompassionate organization, that this is an organization where people don't actually care for maximizing output and outcomes for the organization. That it means you can get away with a behavior, which means you're making a choice here
Hmm.
of a behavior, which by and large no one will question, because most people are resigned to the fact that this is the way lay of the land. This is
Yeah.
the way we work here. So I picked only collaboration, and I'm saying collaboration itself has compassion at the center of it. If you build a culture of compassion, you will by default, by organically collaborate with people. Words like co-creation, collective intelligence are not just great. It's not just rhetoric. It's actually significant ways in which you actually manifest performance in an organization. So I'm going to stop at this. I mean, there's just so many pieces that we
Yeah.
can to
I
compassion.
know. I see. There's a lot of pieces that you have as a, when you speak about compassionate leadership, it turns out to be a lot of connective pointers that we can talk about. Now, what I would like to understand from you, what are the key differences between empathetic leader and compassionate leader in a practice? So you mentioned that empathy and compassion are two different things. Now, how do we look at these key differences? Is what I would like to take an input from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, very interestingly, this circuits, we all have this conversation around understanding something but not actually doing it.
Doing it. Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? So there's a knowing doing gap which we
Yeah.
constantly find in organizations. And I was thrilled when I was um, in my reading and my exploration around neurosciences and EQ, that I
Mhm.
actually discovered that there are three circuits in the brain, right? So, for example, if you take empathy, you can have cognitive empathy, which means that you understand a particular emotion. For example, if somebody passes, then you know
Mm.
that the people around them ought to be sad, or would be, very devastated, perhaps because they've lost someone. So
Mm.
you have cognitive understanding, or rather, you have cognitive empathy for the emotion somebody else would be experiencing, which means you understand it. That's a separate circuit. The second circuit is basically around understanding emotion emotively, which means you understand that emotion. So they might miss the person, they might be really saddened about the person suddenly going away, they may be shocked. So
Mm.
there's a cognitive perspective circuit. There is an emotive circuit where you also understand the emotion, but you
Okay.
don't really having empathetic concern, which means you will intervene to do something about somebody when you know what it is that they want or they need or they feel, is a third circuit. And a lot of people operate from circuit 1 and 2,
Mm.
not from circuit 3. Let me give you an example. Right, there was a Harvard case study where they kind of got a group of students to be able to read a, I mean, they actually asked them to do an activity, which is, there was a case study called the Good Samaritan.
Mhm.
And the story of the Good Samaritan was that, lots of people were walking down a street, and there was this person who was standing by the wayside who basically got sick. And so he was holding on to his stomach. And then
Mm.
he was bent over holding on to his stomach because he was very unwell. And everyone walked past, not stopping to figure what was going on with him, although he seemed very sick and he was on the road. He didn't lie down, he was standing, and then he was bending over. But even all the time that he was standing and bending over, people just walked past him.
Mm.
Now, this case study asked the students to analyze that, what do you think? And then somebody came along and actually helped the person, and then got that person some medical help or water and things like that, and then got that person up and running again. And so the questions of the case study was that, what do you think was going through the minds of the people who were walking past? Why did they not stop to be able to see him? It took him a couple of, you know, at least a half an hour before somebody came to him and helped him. So what was going through the minds of the people who have not helped him? Then what went through the mind of the Good Samaritan who did help him? Right? And so it sounds like a prima facie very simple case study, but they were supposed to analyze it and then make a presentation, brief presentation on what they had understood of the case study. Now, this group of students who'd been given this case study were told, well, read this, figure out what the answers are, come to the next building and make the
Hmm.
presentation. So they all had to walk from one building to another. Now, en route between the two buildings, the professors had placed a person who was acting. Now, this is an actor, was pretending to have pain in the stomach and then bending over as these
Hmm.
people were walking past to go to the next building to make a presentation on the Good Samaritan. So the point I'm making here is that we've become very transactional about people. We don't notice them. We don't notice change of mood. We don't notice body language.
Yeah.
We don't notice what's going on with people. We really don't. And everyone's very self-consumed about themselves and their own lives and their own careers and whatever else it is that they want for themselves. But the empathetic concern that you really need. So it's not about understanding it cognitively. A lot of people in coaching tell me that, oh, I'm working with someone who's a sociopath. And I'm saying this is not a sociopath. This person has circuit 1 and 2 working and doesn't have
Hmm.
circuit 3 activated, which means you
Yeah.
conceptually understand something, but you don't emotionally understand enough to want to intervene. And that's why people are not experiencing the value of intervention in terms of coaching. People are not experiencing the intervention in terms of mentoring. I have organization after organization telling me that our mid management is very weak.
Hmm.
The big question I'm going to ask is that, my first question always is that how many of these people grew internally and how many of these people have come from outside? And the normal tally would be perhaps 60-40.
Yeah.
It would be 60-40 in terms of 60 from inside, maybe 40 from outside. Yeah. But even the ones who come in from outside have spent a couple of years before they've gotten to the mid level. Now, if you turn around and say, you know what, we've got new agendas, things are evolving. I don't think this management can do it. We're looking at being able to figure other people who can basically come in. And my big question is that what happened? These people were in your watch for the last so many years. If we've ended up deciding that they're not so great, okay, we know where to look, right? Because
Yeah.
we were in charge of grooming them. We were in charge of making them the leaders we want them to become. And this is the part that I'm talking about when I say discompassionate workplace is not interested in grooming and teaching other people. It's
Yeah.
each one to their own. You know what I mean? Which is, you come in, it's very mercenary. You come in with your own wares, what you know, show us your dance. And if we like it, then we're going to basically figure what we can do with you. Worse still, I'm talking about now the circuit, which is cognitive circuit, and then the emotive circuit, which is we've gone through the pretense of being able to create some programs and of doing something else with these people, but we've not actually given them the ways that they need to succeed on the job. So I hear n number of people tell me that the learning in our organization does not speak to what we really need to do on the job. So it's also about whether you do a check in the box, or whether you're really interested in being able to make a difference. Through my career, what I remember the most, or what I've loved the most, is the people who have actually intervened in being able to help me blossom as a professional through their mentoring, through their coaching, through the support that they provided you even when you got things wrong. So you got a piece of their mind, but you were always experience a sense of belongingness. And I'm saying they managed to do that with people, which is you didn't feel alienated, you didn't feel shouted at, you didn't feel disconnected, you didn't want to run away to the next job. You knew you wanted to stay back and prove to them that you were worth every bit of effort and input that they were providing you to be able to succeed. And I'm saying it's possible for us to bring all of this back. We must bring this back to the workplace. Yeah, it requires some rewiring, but it's not impossible.
I think the pointers, as much as said, is when you said 60-40, the kind of people that we have, internal motivation, internal training, grooming. These are tasks that I think we've lost in touch with any organization of late. I think after the COVID pandemic, we don't know where a person is sitting and what is he doing. And the connect in terms of how you bring people to think and to mentor also has gone, as you said in your discussion, saying that silo work has been the predominant growing
Hmm.
problem that we are facing in almost every organization as of today. Now, I would take one example which you said when we had I had few mentors in my previous organizations. These people always used to say, you go do this, this is your project, you get this project done. But if you're struck, you'll not hesitate to ask. You may be failing, but you need to ask. Then I can help you. If you don't tell me, I will not be in a position to help you. So they used to be there when needed and cut off when they are not needed. They were never being a person who's always following what is the next step. They used to give you guidance, and with this guidance you move forward. If you are stuck again, you go and explain from where did you start and how did you come to the next level. So
Yeah.
they used to be there as a shadow rather than being a person who's always behind your back saying that this is wrong, you should not do this, this is right, this is supposed to be. They used to give you that authority to do things. I will take few pointers where Dr. Sujaya is that I was deputed to a on-site assignment where as I entered, it was already an escalated project. So I went there and the customer first said is get out. So
Hmm.
he said, I don't want you part of this organization. So because there are three, four people who come and they've not done anything. I said, I understand. This is the structure I got to know. If you give me time, I'll explain where do we stand and what are the challenges that we have faced. I've analyzed this and this is where we stand. And I, in fact, told the next step is this is my boss's number. This is his mail ID. You can escalate to him if I'm also not performing. I don't know whether that was the connect that
Hmm.
earlier. This is the first level. This is the second level of
Hmm.
escalation. Things are not.
Hmm.
Now I had that backing saying that I will stand. Give my number
Hmm.
from my boss. My
Hmm.
boss had a backing saying that if this guy is not able to second level, I am there. So I was given also the privilege saying that you go and take responsibility, mentor people. And my boss always used to, कितने साल यही काम करेगा. My
Hmm.
boss always used to say that
Hmm.
I am the head of PMO today. Kal you will have to come to my role and I'll have to move out. So you have to be in my seat means you have to think how I think. So
Yeah.
that is what I think is what is missing in today's this one. So
Hmm.
can we share another moment where a compassionate decision you made directly impacted the company's culture or its bottom line?
So I think that I mean, there's so many examples, Prem, but I'm going to try and pick one or two where I think that, and I'll take it from my working career compared to some of the consulting work that I do at this point, which is pretty much in the same place of being able to drive culture change.
Hmm.
This is work we're doing across the world with so many organizations. We just concluded something for a big bank in Slovak,
Okay.
and and also with for the large conglomerate in South Africa. So I think every organization is asking these deep questions around culture, and it's just ever so important to sort of see leadership manifest wisdom and decency, especially when things go wrong. So I'm reminded of a situation where, in one of the large conglomerates that I worked, there had been some instances of breach of cybersecurity in terms of information. Uh,
Mhm.
I think there'd been information theft
Mhm.
within the organization, and I think it remained unverified in a way, but there was a reaction because there wasn't any explanation for why certain data had been moved by various employees to their personal email IDs.
Hmm.
And I think there's an example being made out of, look, you know, um, there could be, police action. We could put you behind bars. We'd have a case against you if we really know. And so things like that, which normally most qualified, and contributing employees don't want that as an outcome of the work that they're trying to do. So I think they've gone around. This is early days of talking about, sort of information safety and so on within the organization and any violations and how to really go around sort of handling it. I was in the US at that time, trying to hire people from some of the premier schools there. And we would try, because we had so many acquisitions across the world, we were trying to basically bring in people from leading B schools to take on, mid-level upward jobs, so that we could basically laterally hire some people with experience from these B schools.
Mhm.
So I was in the US, and we had the volcano ashes, and as a result of which I couldn't really come back in time. So I spent some extra days there. There's somebody who called me because of the time difference, and I could only hear sobs on the phone, and basically was crying because she'd sent some employee data to a Gmail account, and hadn't really officially sought permission from her manager, but she had basically worked on that document and then sent it back.
Hmm.
So because there was a wide search that was going on, there was a sense of an inquiry and a committee and the rest of that, which is the course it takes. And I think the organization was in a process of drawing very strong boundaries around this kind of flexibility to send data wherever you feel like and so on, which was kind of in a very large conglomerate. It takes a while to be able to build that discipline across and to get multiple people to understand that this is not all right, especially when it has been all right for a very long period of time.
Yeah, yeah.
So, she'd not sought official permission, but it was apparent she'd taken it to be able to do some end of the year work on a document before she sent it back. Now, to make matters worse, when the committee had figured this out, she had already resigned to move on to another job. So it also seemed highly suspicious that you have taken some data, moved it to your personal email ID. Of course, it had been reversed back, but even then, there was a question of did it without asking anyone, and then now you're on your way out. Now, she wasn't going to be in the same industry, so that information was not going to be relevant in that sense. But there is a belief that employees will perhaps take more risks if they're not going to even stay in the same industry, if they need to do something for a friend, if someone else is asking them for some data. You really never know. It was like a master data file that she had passed on
Okay.
to her Gmail. So she calls me in the middle of the night, weeping and saying that I really need support and help on this, because there's very dire action being taken against me. I don't know what else can happen. I'm anyway on my way out, but I've been told that my bonus will not be paid to me. I've been told all kinds of punitive actions, basically, had been called out, especially because, when you find these things happening, there's often an orientation that you want to make an example out of people who are deviating from whatever the norm or the standard or the policy might really be. I
Hmm.
told her to give me time till the next week, and when I come back, we'll try and figure how to resolve this. And I must say that in the interim, she had somebody from the family who worked for the government who had come in to be able to try and protect her or save her from the consequences of her action. And obviously, had ended up saying, "Oh, if you all don't resolve this, then I'm going to take legal action back or something to that effect." And this is what happens when you have a conflict situation. People come in and make things worse instead of de-escalating. Most of us are great at escalating, especially when things go wrong. So, long story short, when I came back, I asked for everything to get re-examined, sort of re-questioned. We went back to the drawing board to figure out what was happening. It's very clear that she had done work on that document and sent it back. So she had done that, even though she should have officially asked somebody before doing it. And I think good sense prevailed over the second review, and there was a decision made not to take any dire action against her, to allow her to be able to sort of reinstate whatever was due to her, and that she could go with her head held high at the back of this. I must say that one of the things I always tell people is that in a collective society, there is no confidential information and there's no activity that happens confidentially behind doors. People do come to know when there are situations like this, and they watch the management closely for how the management is going to react and handle it. I must say that what stood out for us is that we finally took a stance, although it didn't look very good with choppy waters in the start, but we took a stance to be fair to this person who was leaving. And I think that the fact that we reinstated all honor and everything else and let it pass as a human error, which is not done intentionally,
Hmm.
in an environment which was rife with many data thefts examples and people who had already been taken to task for what it is that they'd done.
Hmm.
So, long story short, I think that organizations experience all kinds of challenges, especially in a disruptive environment where I'm sure there are violations to the way in which you would normally, you could have process inadequacy in an environment like this to, you're trying to follow something, but there's too much complexity. You need to have some hypothesis testing and the rest of that. So the tolerance for mistakes and ability to be able to be discerning around which ones are intentional and which ones aren't. And in the environment in which we are right now, we're going to find lots of people make those mistakes. And so, how well does the organization demonstrate maturity? Uh,
Hmm.
Demonstrate wisdom. I think wisdom more than anything else,
Yeah.
and decency. A natural inclination to be decent to each other. And I think that that has gotten eroded in some places, which is the reason why you're finding so much mention to toxic energy. I also think that the perception that the organization is toxic is also coming out of poor communication inside many organizations. So for example, when something would happen, in various places that I was working in, there was a practice to talk to employees about it, to stand up and say, well, we had an instance of XYZ. This is how we decided to be able to resolve it. And we want to call out what are the lessons learned from this for everyone so that we don't get ourselves into this mess again. And I think that open conversation and dialogue has died somewhere in the midst of transactional work. So we stopped treating each other as people who are on the same side. You know what I mean? And the fact that we're on the same side trying to make the organization win, this communication and open communication is just so key. It's so key. It's about showing respect to people no matter how junior they might be. Even if they're entry level, they're 20 years old, and they're engineers, or they're GETs, or they are diploma engineers, or whoever young people who are coming into the organization at a young age. Is just holding them. In fact, you hold their hand to adulthood by
Mm.
sharing discordant information with them and letting them understand that it happens like that, and you got to be careful about it, and you got to make sure that you don't do this. You know what I mean? And you got to be able to make sure that you uphill. And if you do, come and talk to us so that we can try and
Yeah,
understand how to help you. And I think somewhere that thread of wisdom and decency and respect has gotten lost. And I dare say, combined with the fact that we have promoted people too soon inside organizations to become people managers. It's almost like, and I must akin it to, or make it similar to the whole process of how it is that you experience adulthood, particularly in the context of our country, which is that it's the fact that you're at class 10. The conversation will veer towards, what are you going to study next, what are you going to
yeah.
be do next.
That's
And
a big challenge for us.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah, it is. And I'm saying, of course, you should be concerned, but just that becomes a dining table conversation. If you
yes,
meet a guest, they're talking about that. Oh, you're in ninth standard. What are you going to do after 10th?
yeah,
And then if you're not doing something fancy, then it's not sounding like a very good answer. So poor things, people are really under pressure to be able to give really good answers there. Then you go in and you're studying, and you're trying. If after class 12 you don't make it through competition, then there are all kinds of alternatives, of course, but there is a lot of despair for not doing as well as others. And then once you pass your graduation and post graduation, the whole question veers towards, so when are you getting married? So when are you getting married? The minute you get married, then in about 2 3 years, now I think they have a little more leeway, get 3 years, 4 years. But oh, are they not having children? Are they not having children? And I'm saying, what has prepared you to be able to, just like you floated into whichever career that you floated into, yeah, you can't float into important things like like marriage. You can't float into important things like parenthood. You
yeah,
can't float into important things like careers. It's not just a source of living, it's what you're going to be doing every day. And I think that even if the so there's kind of a sense of coming in not fully prepared for what it is that they are actually that they should actually expect from an employer, combined with not receiving the kind of invitation to belong, uh,
yeah,
not being able to be included, by having to earn their space in the social circles inside the organization, and the rest. You don't become a member because you've joined and because you're there, and it's other people's jobs to also integrate you into the workplace. That if you're not having a great day, maybe your peers and the others may notice, but not your manager, who's actually most responsible for your mood and your emotional state for contribution. And there are things happening in the work environment that are reducing contribution. This requires a conversation. Conversely, I have a lot of leaders ask me, why are they talking about mental health? Yeah,
mm,
there are new fads coming up every day. This mental health, what has it got to do with me? I mean, they should take care of their own mental health. We take care of our own mental health. We have managers who make things difficult for us. We're figuring things out, and we are managing our own mental health. Why have you put this also on our threshold? And the point is that their managers also need to manage and make sure you're spending the maximum number of hours in the workplace. You cannot absolve yourself of people's mental health or not being concerned about it. Now, do they have personal issues? Do they have personal problems? For sure. One
yeah.
lady who I was coaching mentioned to me, this was an EQ based coaching, and she had very low EQ. And she said, yeah, I know my EQ is low, and I've not been having a very good time the last almost a year.
Mm.
And I asked her why, and she said, well, she lost both parents in a gap of 3 months. Nothing to do with COVID, but both parents died within a gap of 3 months. She's an only child. And she's saying, I'm just upset and angry with the world. But I come to work every day. And I know I've not been very good to my team. I'm on a short fuse and all of that, but I don't meet my friends. I don't want to go out anywhere with my relatives. I don't celebrate anyone's birthday. I don't celebrate any festivals. So here's a person who is really, really grieving, and is sincerely grieving, not wanting to interact, not wanting to socialize, not even making an attempt to be able to recover from her grief. She's staying in her grief and continuing to be able to come to work every day. Now, and given her EQ scores, was very concerned, and she said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, but I think I keep yelling at my team all the time. I don't think I'm being very good to them, and so I wanted you to know that this could be an outcome of what I'm experiencing in the last 1.5 years." And I agree. You know what I mean? That the scores could be easily a reflection of that. But I had a bigger question to ask, and I said, How has your manager been handling this? Because she's coming to work every day,
Yeah.
and I said, how is your manager handling this? And she said, well, I mean, I do the work required, so they're all okay with the work. I said, no, I'm asking you, that has he not noticed the mood shift? Has he not noticed how it is that you're feeling? You can see that, right? If someone is really suffering and is full of misery and is taking it out on the team, I mean, surely from somewhere
Feel
something,
that
some data about this individual. Now here's the point, right? She turned and said that, no, he's never had a conversation with me about anything to do with my personal.
person.
And I'm saying here we have data that there are two parents who have passed, one on the back of the other. And we're still not finding it within us to be able to have a conversation around that. In fact, to refer, to be able to tell her, like, look, this is not my space of expertise, but you must be seeing a therapist when you're struggling with something like that. Right?
Your
Because that's
point
the
is
first
very,
step.
very important, Dr. Sujaya. I think what you said in as many words is you have a manager who's knowing that he's getting his work done, but she's yelling at the team. That
Mm,
get noticed. You made a very important point. And now you look at the other side of the problem is the lady is not communicated that there is a challenge that I need help, and she's not asked help for also.
yeah,
So what you said on the communication side also comes in, where you say if I'm in struggle, I'm not seeking help as well,
yeah,
right? And for me, my manager knows it, but he's never asked me. So I
yeah,
think there is that silos that you spoke about in the previous pointer also, is that
yeah.
silos is you get the work done, you're good, you are getting the things done, we are good. But what happens to the connection, the communication, the long term? You also said one pointer where you said 40, 60 people who are growing in the organization. Now how will that second leader chain move up?
Mm.
That is also is what is breaking up, is what in most of the organizations. And that is where this toxic environment, not getting things done, not having a proper communication is coming up, is what I feel. Your take on it, Dr. Surya?
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree, and I'm saying it's transactional leadership
Yeah.
actually more than the
Yes.
silo working. I think the silo working is an additional style in terms of not wanting to make everything transactional. I think that most people have missed the opportunity of leadership.
Yeah.
When you make it transactional, you're trying to oversimplify your job as a leader. And I'm always telling people that whoever said it's easy to lead other people, it's not.
It's
Yeah,
not.
and it requires you to constantly self-examine, self-reflect on what it is that you're doing, what it is that you're saying, what else you could easily do to make people's lives easier. It's about being brave. It's about having the ability to confront. It's about being able to give people feedback. It's the ability to be able to shift your style, your social intelligence in terms of how it is that you're manifesting relationships with your peers, with your customers, with your senior stakeholders. I mean, this is a complex job. It can't be oversimplified into, well, I'll just leave 10 points out of a 15-point program, and I won't handle that, and I'll try and simplify this to 5. No, no, there is no role for the 5, if you know what I mean. You won't be doing your role well if you've reduced it to one third of what it is that you're actually supposed to be doing in that role. And so to me, oversimplifying your opportunity as a leader, I also think these are times for being able to inspire people to think differently, and such fabulous times to be able to intervene to create the delta of change for people who have not had a great education background. And I'm saying to be able to integrate talent in a different way within organizations, to think creatively about what kind of talent do we really want? There is instead a huge orientation to go back to 2020
Hmm.
and to go to the brick and mortar world, which is a place of comfort, and to go back and do what it is that is familiar.
Yeah.
And I think that, if there is one acid test I want to give everyone who's listening to this podcast, it is that if you're going back to what you used to do, you be sure nothing's changing around you.
Hmm.
It remain that, if you have a tendency to just go back because, oh, wo to aata hai, we already know it, we know how to do it, we used to do it like that before. And look, I'm not saying summarily that everything that you know, everything that you were doing before is not relevant anymore. I'm just simply saying that if you're finding yourself finding spaces of comfort, finding spaces of familiarity all the time, it means that the challenge is your inability to adapt with changing environment, your denial of the fact that the environment has disrupted, the environment has changed. If you did what you did, you will get what you got. So if you're going to change what you get, you're going to change what you do. And so if you're unwilling to change what you do, you should not be surprised if what you're doing is suboptimal and that you're not able to sustain success, even if you temporarily get to experience it. I think this is one big challenge we're having, and we're not being able to inspire people to the real challenges of the environment. And I mean, when I say challenges, the real opportunities, of the environment. To have fun, you know what I mean? And everyone's saying, "Oh, fun." Yes, we have a lot of fun because we're cutting birthday cakes and
Yeah.
we're taking people to beer and
Fun,
biryani
I
parties.
think.
All that is socialization. That's not fun. Yeah, I mean, in the sense it could be fun, but I'm just trying to say that that's not the fun we're referring to. We're referring to your ability to have fun as you work, your
Yeah.
ability to be able to communicate and to be able to have develop a sense of humor and bring in joy and
Yeah.
connection and camaraderie as you're actually coming together to be able to do something which is different and which is big, and that you're enjoying the experience of being with your team while you're all striving in very difficult circumstances to be able to do things differently, and you're experimenting and you're exploring and you're raising the bar and you're pushing people hard to be able to try doing things another way. That is what we're actually alluding to. And I think there are opportunities galore. These are splendid times on opportunities, splendid times on what work could actually constitute,
Yeah.
and splendid times of having so many young people around you. I mean, 70% of all workforce is Gen Z and millennial. So you have very young people, you have the power and the magic of technology and deploying technology to be able to drive change, to be able to become more productive, to be able to build that speedy organization. I was filling up a format this morning, for stock trading,
Hmm.
and this is a leading organization. I don't want to call them out, but I mean, such poor tech for onboarding a customer. I
Hmm.
told them that, you are in 2025. I mean, change this app. You know what I mean? If it's not delivering what it's supposed to, change it. Your only yardstick, you don't need gizmos to
Yeah.
become technologically intelligent. You actually just need solutions that are simple, which actually work and bring you closer to the customer, bring you closer to your talent. That's what you need when it comes to technology. And I think we, in very significant ways, not using the prowess of people, particularly young people, to bring in market intelligence, to bring in customer intelligence, to bring in new ideas for quicker, faster change by being able to deploy technology in a meaningful manner. I think there's just multitudes of opportunities we are not yet exploring. So, my work in the space of cultures of flourish is about being able to become human centric. And by human centric, it doesn't mean that, oh, we've created an employee assistance program, or we would like to give you a paternity leave, or we'd like to give you leave, we which is basically part of regulation and compliance, which is maternity leave, or we give you flexibility sometimes to work from home if you have a challenge or you're unwell. So I'm saying all of this is human centric, and I'm not saying that it's not, but I'm talking about human centricity in terms of, for instance, helping young people joining organizations. And that there is an environment of disruption, that most of them do not have workplace skills. What are we doing? But they do have strengths which they're bringing in naturally. What are we doing to reinvent the entry level experience? Yeah, for young people. in most organizations, these are exactly the way they used to be before. The way they
Yeah,
induct young people in is exactly how they used to do it before.
true.
Yeah, then they'll say, oh, we have a bot. But I'm saying
Mm.
that's not what they're looking for, right? They're looking for the human touch, and they're looking for the human intervention for mentoring. Yeah, I think what is very clear with the new generation is that, if you're working with smart people, then the smart people need to invest in them by making them smart as well.
Yeah,
So if there isn't a bridge to make them smart, they're not actually interested in your smartness. So what are we doing to be able to make that happen? How do we give them early leadership experiences, right? What are we going to do to sort of make sure that the prowess that they bring in with technology, there is some way of being able to deploy that within the organization? I think we are lagging behind on this because in most organizations, we haven't even revised our job descriptions. We haven't even revised what our competency frameworks are. And we are presuming that what worked in the past is what's going to
that
continue to
will
work.
work in the future as well. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So it's business as usual. Everything's become business as usual. And I think the more you're trying to simplify things and not do what is really required to be done, I think we're losing opportunity to be able to. We are leaving money on the table for sure. You could do multitude times better if you were truly human centric. The second part is that what you're doing right now is not sustainable. So it can't stay for long, even if it seems to be working sort of in the short run. So I think these are a couple of things that I want to talk about. Of course, the exploration of cultures of flourish goes far beyond being only human centric. But if you just pick the thread of human centricity itself, right? So collaboration is a thread of human centricity. Your ability to work together with people, what the South Africans call Ubuntu,
hmm.
the spirit of human interdependence, which means that you like people at work and people like you at work. And
True.
that's not a disadvantage. Yeah,
I think,
somewhere we've seen this tendency of having inner circles, outer circles, and everyone's shouting out loud for inclusion. I can't see why we would not want to include the last man or the last woman standing, because you will not get contribution from them. Yeah, if you are not including them. It's just as simple as that. It's logical to be able to include them. If you don't include people who are across teams, yeah, you're just losing the opportunity to do great work and to actually experience the joy of the team, of
true.
all the people who are there together. Yeah, how did we end up creating these misery engines, which where time and again there is a tendency to say, well, people don't stay, they move out.
Hmm.
And oh, what's the point? Yesterday someone was telling me, I'm very frustrated because there's no point teaching or training Gen Z because they don't stay. Yeah, and they are very restless and they go for a little bit of money. I mean, frankly, I really believe that a lot of them need to learn to behave better and to respect the opportunities that they have. And I'm saying, okay, that's a perspective, and it's a useful perspective that you can do something about. And so I'm asking everyone who has a perspective on Gen Z, the Gen Zs who have a perspective on the millennials who have a perspective on the Gen X. Yeah, so you have that perspective. Now, what are you doing about it? Because when you're human centric, you do something about it, and you
Yeah,
offer to do something about it. You don't just kind of abandon the workplace or abandon the problem or abandon the people. How many times can we abandon it and run to another place? So the idea is, change, managing change and becoming the voice for change, wanting to be able to participate in being able to, oh, but here no one's interested in change. Where are you? And you're in a leadership position. So why are you not the flag bearer of the change inside the organization? And I'm saying, so there is a lack of ownership for what the problems are, and everyone wants a smooth ride with a higher salary. Guess what? You're not getting that. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
not sustainable, and you're not going to get that for long. And it's not uncommon to find people in their late 40s and early 50s, shopping around for a new career. Yeah, and we have an environment where the hiring is the goose for the goose and the gander for the gander, and it becomes even worse as you get more and more senior. No
yeah,
one's experimenting to go hire from elsewhere for some other space, even if you're open to experimentation in your later years work. So we've lost the spirit of experimentation, innovation, creativity, actually tapping into the real prowess for why it is that you bring people to work. Yeah, we're not tapping into that. It's just become a grand transactional affair. And I think this cultures of flourish is about being able to get the skip back into your step. You know what I mean? Get the skip back into your step. Get the joy back into your step. Your best friend should be the people at work. Yeah, the person who you consider a mentor, and a very defining presence and influence in your life should be people who are your bosses and managers within the organization.
So I think the points that you have taken over the 1 hour of session that is the questions that needs to be addressed when you look at future of workspace, right? What we are talking about is how compassion is taking it and how do you flourish the workspace to win in the future is what we spoke about. What we I would like to summarize because
Yeah.
there's a lot of information that you have given on a marathon run, Dr. Sujaya. I think what we are trying to say in your pointers, as many to the audience and to the larger context, is we've lost that passionate people coming into the work saying that I want to do this. This is my passion, and I want to work on this, and I will stick on, learn it, and move on. So that's one thing that you have told us. The second pointer that I would like to take is that there is environment, there is people who are there who are internally available, but how much of the leadership is taking them to move on to the next leadership, that is becoming one of the challenges where people are moving out and seeking out, and we are bringing new perspectives, and that perspectives are changing the direction of the organization itself. That's the second point I take from what you said. And the third pointer that I would see is there are Gen Zs, but there no hand holding that is happening. And that hand holding, if it happens, Gen Zs can be much better to what they are comparing. And they are, and most of them, as you rightly said, are not people who are looking for only money as thing. There are people who are looking at growth as well, right? So the crowd is very limited in terms of people who are moving out to only look at fast growth, right? But if you don't do anything here, how will you grow in the next company also, is what you pointer said. Did I These are the pointers that I took, but you will also have to include people in the decisions that we do. We should tell what is the structure, what is the culture, how is that we work, what are the projects that we are working, what are the lessons that we have learned and stuff. This is what I took from your pointers today as you spoke. There's a lot of information that you have shared, yeah, but this information has to be put in a right direction to look at how we flourish the workplaces in the future. So any pointers that you would like to add before we conclude on this session, Sujay?
Yeah, I think I just want to tell people that, we have a population of 1.48 billion people. So no one can afford to tell themselves that they don't have the right talent.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's your job to go find them. You know what I mean? And the confusions that you're seeing also coming out of not seeing the map and the terrain matching. Yeah, so it's coming out of that, and I think we got to bear along with this, the people who are in senior positions within organizations. It's our job to be able to help people and handhold them through this process. You could be the most defining influence they were looking for, and we don't let that opportunity pass. Everyone needs support to succeed, and everyone needs support to find their mojo, what they're really good at.
yeah,
And I think that with a very large young workforce, this becomes the default responsibility of anyone who accepts to become a leader in this context. So I wish everyone a great journey inside their respective organizations. And I also invite you to be able to strive to create the cultures of flourish. They don't come from outside, it's because we reorganize ourselves and the way we behave differently, which is how we create and manifest those cultures of flourish. So they are eminently possible to do. This is not a fairy tale. This is what a lot of us have experienced, and we're asking to bring that back. The skip back in your step to get to work. Yeah, the place that you really enjoy being in, the place that you're actualizing in, like a temple of learning and actualization. And
true.
that can only happen when all of us create that together. We're sitting on so many opportunities as a nation. All organizations are looking for growth, looking to be able to innovate, are looking to be able to contribute differently. It's our time to be able to do this as a nation. So I invite everyone to be able to do that. And happy Women's Day again to all the women who are watching this podcast.
Thank you, Sujaya, Dr. Sujaya. With this, I would like to conclude the session. We have streamed this session on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Hope you found this discussion valuable. And our next podcast is happening on the 18th of March at 6:30 p.m., where we are talking about securing the future AI-powered product and application security. explained in detail the Cloud Security Alliance initiative that we are taking about to look at how cloud and security is implemented across organizations, right? So with this, yeah, thank you being here. It's a honor to have you back again to
Thank
ask
you,
for,
Prem Kumar.
yeah, and thank you for being here.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Prem Kumar, and all the best with all the good work you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you.